If you missed out on Uplift Live in the UK or social media marketing world in the US, don't worry, I've got you covered. I'm going to share all the insider tips, what I learned, and most importantly, what I shared on the P.A.G.E Advocacy Tour. G'day everyone, it's Coach Michelle J. Raymond back from our global adventure. Lil and I made it. We did 60 hours of planes, trains, and automobiles on the global P.A.G.E Advocacy speaking tour. It was kind of crazy. I am nuts to have done it, but I am so glad that we made the effort because it was just amazing. And I have to share that the very first flight, I wasn't sure that we're even going to make it. So picture this, you get to the airport super early because I am that kind of person. It's the only place in the world that stresses me. I get there at 3 a.m. Lil and I are lined up to hand over our bags. We go up to the check-in person and they say, your booking isn't ticketed. Now, I can tell you that the dread that went through my body right then and the meltdown I was about to have was crazy, especially when they say, go and stand over there for a moment and we'll just make some calls. Not exactly what you want to hear at that time of the morning on the first leg. Luckily for me, I had Lil with me. She keeps me calm and everything got sorted and away we went. But ultimately, it was a pretty amazing trip. No one wants to hear about somebody else's holiday, but in this particular adventure, because it was for business, I also am going to share what I thought about Uplift Live, what I thought about social media marketing world, what I learned at both of those events. And also, just for you listeners, if you stick around to the end, I'm going to share some insights into what the P.A.G.E Advocacy framework is that I shared at both of these events. Now, I can't share everything because I'm off to Denmark in a few weeks' time to speak at the Linked Summit. So can't wait to get back there. One of the things that I got to do while I was at Social Media Marketing World was catch up with the team at Metricool at their stand. So great to meet up with them all. And what's even better than that is I'm about to drop some information about a new report that they've released that specifically focuses on LinkedIn. Here's some more details. Listeners, I am as excited as I am on a Friday when I crack open my packet of Tim Tams, maybe even a little bit more excited. Why? Because Metricool's LinkedIn study has just dropped and they've shared some amazing insights. In it, I learned things like the engagement rate on LinkedIn has grown by over 18% since 2024. Average clicks have also grown by over 30%. Not to mention, the average watch time for video content has spiked by, wait for it, 68%, which is just crazy. So Metricool's LinkedIn study analyzed over 47,000 professional LinkedIn accounts and more than 570,000 posts. If you're like me and you love to nerd out on all things LinkedIn so you can refine your 2025 LinkedIn strategy, then go to the show notes, find the link to download the report and enjoy. And I would love to hear what you think was the most interesting insight. Firstly, I want to share with you about Uplift Live in the UK, organised by the wonderful John Asperian, Gus Bandel, and Jeremy Freeman. And those three, really, considering it's just their second time they've put on the event, really it was such an A-grade job that they did. And I knew from the moment that we walked into the hotel foyer and John Asperian happened to be there, we bumped into him and I got a hug that this is the kind of event that it was going to be. And really it was. They are so considerate in everything that they did, whether it was making sure that as speakers, we had everybody in the room, no matter when I turned around and saw them speaking to someone, they were always making sure that everybody was okay. And I love that the event's fully accessible for everybody, whether it's the price of the ticket, whether it's the subtitles while we're presenting, or having Andy Gray on stage as the live illustrator. It really was a special event. And because of this, we had so many people there that I would call my friends that I've met through the wonders of LinkedIn. And it was so cool to actually meet up and have conversations with these people, give them a hug, share a Tim Tam. Yes, I did get 450 Tim Tams across the world through customs and delivered to all of the people that came to my presentations. So that was pretty amazing. So it was, I would have to say, just an event that was quite intimate. There's about 200 people there, and more people were watching the live recordings and recordings online. But ultimately, I think that intimacy with lots of people that just wanted to nerd out on LinkedIn, it was really lovely, and something that I think would be perfect if you're an introvert. It's a really safe space, and I got to talk to some people that it's their first time coming to events like this and they really loved it. So shout out to the organizers. You did an amazing job, and early bird tickets are out there now. Grab one. If you change your mind or something comes up, there's always a refund policy through till December. You've got nothing to lose and everything to gain. If we flick across and talk about social media marketing world in the US, I think it almost reflects the two different countries. And social media marketing world has around 2,500 people attend. And these marketers are there to learn across all kinds of streams. And AI in marketing was obviously super popular. The second most requested topic that marketers wanted to learn about at social media marketing world, drumroll, was LinkedIn, which is pretty handy for someone like me that talks about LinkedIn and company pages. That, for me, that appetite for LinkedIn is just as strong this year as what it was last year. And it's great to see that enthusiasm there. So the difference with this event is, picture it, you walk into a huge conference space, you're at the bottom of the escalator, and I swear to God, by the time you get up the top of this escalator ride, you feel like you must be landing in heaven. It seems to go on forever. But you're greeted by people that are giving you high fives and signs to tell you to smile and chauffeuring you around to the check-in area. And it's really big and noisy and in your face. And at first it can be a little overwhelming, but this year was my second time, so I knew exactly what to prepare for. But if it's your first time next year, mark my words, at first it's a little bit over the top. But that energy is what keeps this event going. And it was something that this year I had to approach really differently. So last year I wanted to speak to as many people as I possibly could. Networking was the aim of my game last year. But this year I wasn't speaking until the last day on the last afternoon. Now, why didn't I do networking? Last year I networked so much I lost my voice. That's right, listeners. There is a limit to how much I can talk. And I think Lil was probably pretty happy with that one last year. So this year I was trying to protect my voice. But the upside to that is Lil and I went in and got to see some of the speaker workshops and other presentations, which I'm going to share what we learned. In general, they are both super different conferences, but the thing that I found really interesting is, if we look at what I took away in general from Uplift Live, was a lot of reminders from each of the speakers about getting back to the fundamentals and basics and making sure that we have strategy and clarity around how we're going to execute that on LinkedIn. So coming back to branding, coming back to storytelling, coming back to how we format our posts. Fast forward, if we look at social media marketing world, it was almost what is going to happen in the future is how a lot of the presentations were pitched. Now, AI has a big piece of this, but the interesting part to me is the AI speakers that I either caught live or have watched the recording since all come back to, if you don't get those fundamentals right, the tools and the processes that AI can help you with are pretty much ineffective, or they're not going to get you the results that people dream of. The tools aren't the silver bullet. Having a strong foundation really is. If I look back, I would say that these two events were actually complementary in their own very unique ways of presenting and the way that they both go around it. But ultimately, the goal is the same for marketers. What can we do with the resources we have to achieve the business goals of growth? Next, I want to talk to you about what I learned and how I think it will help your LinkedIn strategy in 2025. There is so much to think of when I cast my mind back to these two events, which were jam-packed with some of the best speakers in the world. So Uplift Live, we've got Juma Bannister, we've got Sam Rathling, we've got AJ Wilcox, myself, Niraj Kapoor, who's been a guest on the podcast, Gus Bandel. We've also got John Asperian and Ivana, and ultimately such a broad range covering most topics that impact LinkedIn. And I think the things that I took away from that, as I said, besides just going into the foundation, was especially when Juma was talking about video and whether it was tied in with what I was talking about, P.A.G.E Advocacy, or John was talking about posting, is really the importance of coming back and thinking, how can we hook the viewer or the reader's attention? And how do we stand out once we've got that attention to make sure that we're memorable? And storytelling can really help you with that. But ultimately for me, it was, we have an opportunity to really connect and communicate with people all over the world. And that's a pretty amazing privilege. But also, LinkedIn's a really crowded platform and we have to try and stand out. And coming back to being really mindful around what's in it for the person that's consuming the content. What is it that they're looking for? What problem can you solve for them? And why are you the obvious answer? I think is really the summary of all the speakers that were on stage. If I come across to social media marketing world, I was so excited because one of the people that I wanted to see speak and was at the top of my list was Nancy Harhart. And if you haven't listened to her episode on the podcast, I will share that in the show notes because she's just brilliant and talks about the impact of neuroscience in marketing. So how can you get to yeses more easily by using this neuroscience? And it's super interesting. And yes, it applies to marketing in general. And of course, it applies to your LinkedIn marketing, your email marketing, like every kind of interaction that you're having. It could be your sales proposals. So if you haven't read Nancy's book, I highly recommend that one. The Power of Neuroscience in Marketing was also shared by another presenter, Melina Palmer, who I hadn't come across until Social Media Marketing World. And it was brilliant. And something that stuck with me from her presentation that tied in so well with what Nancy was sharing was essentially, imagine this, every day humans are faced with making 35,000 decisions. And here we are worrying about our LinkedIn posts and what people think of it. Honestly, do any of us have that much time? And that comes back again to making sure that those hooks are good, that storytelling's good, and that we make things memorable. We also got to see Jay Schwedelson and his amazing performance, caffeinated performance, I'm going to say. That guy can talk faster than I am right now. And it was all about email marketing and the importance of the subject line. Now, for some of you, you might have an interest in this, but you might be thinking, Michelle, what's that got to do with a LinkedIn podcast? But again, it made me think about if we don't do the fundamentals well, i.e., if we don't get people to read the subject line in an email so that they open the email to see what we deliver, it's no different to the first sentence of your LinkedIn post. So are you really putting in enough effort to entice people to want to read more and press see more? And his whole presentation was a million miles an hour, and I'm going to go back and watch it again to make sure that I caught up with everything. That brings me to the point that if you haven't subscribed for my brand new email newsletter, we're up to email number 4 is how new it is at this point in time while I'm recording this. Please do subscribe because that is the place where I'm going to be sharing things first. So if you want to get in first, then you need to be a subscriber. So b2bgrowthco.com/newsletter. Now, of course, the details are in the show notes, but please do subscribe because if you want to know what's going on with LinkedIn and how it will help you grow your business faster than your competitors, then that's where I'm going to be sharing things first. That was a lesson that I learned. No more FOMO. We're not fear of missing out anymore. We're fear of not finding out first because there's so much information. So Is it going to work? Are you going to subscribe? I really hope so. Also went to a couple of the sessions and watched the sessions on AI in marketing. Really does come back to, it's not about the tools. It's about mapping your processes and making sure that you have those nailed before you move on to worrying about tools, before you start trying and signing up for millions of subscriptions. Simple Google Sheets, mapping out processes, getting that customer research done, doing the fundamentals is how you get the most out of those tools. So just a quick reminder, AI is not the silver bullet. The best way that I could sum all of that up is get back to fundamentals. Make time for the fundamentals. That is what is going to pay off and set you up for success in the future. I promised that I would share about my presentation and the P.A.G.E Advocacy framework that I launched at these two events. And I'm going to be sharing it in Denmark, as I shared earlier. But ultimately, the P.A.G.E Advocacy framework is no more posting and praying when it comes to LinkedIn company pages. We know that your posts aren't showing up in the home feed. And if we keep complaining and not changing our strategies, we're not going to get anywhere. And from this perspective, what I'd like you to think about is how can we get our page proactively out there supporting our teams, our industry, and our partners. And if you think about that, the simple framework goes like this: 4 steps. P is for play, A is for amplify, G is for give to get, and E is for establish your brand. Now, what do they mean? P for play. It's time for your company page to actually get out there and start supporting other people. So get in the game. You don't just have to post and sit back and that's the only thing that pages can do. Reposting, liking, commenting, like these types of things are being measured now, so there's no excuse not to do them. A is amplify. It's time to amplify the voices within your business. When was the last time you created a post which really highlighted your amazing team or your amazing customers or your amazing suppliers or your amazing business partners? It's time to take the focus off your business and put the focus onto others. Amplify their voices. Whatever you give to them, which is the G, you will get back by showing proactively how you want to be treated. Then you show others and the algorithm who you most want to engage with, and giving to get is something I'm a big fan of. It wouldn't be an episode of this podcast if I didn't say what goes around comes around. So here it is for this episode. E, establish your brand, is all about moving from so much lead gen content and more into thought leadership content. What is the difference? Imagine that your lead gen content, download my white paper, download my case study, attend my event, give us your email address. Anything that says you can't have information from us unless you give us your email address is purely and simply lead gen content. It has its place. If you've never listened to my 3-2-1 content strategy episode, make sure that you go and look for it. If you want the details, connect with me on LinkedIn and ask and just message me 3-2-1. I'll send you the details. But ultimately, it's about having the right balance. And we know that buyers are looking for thought leadership content that helps them make decisions. Now, that's the short version. I'm going to be talking about that more in upcoming episodes and beyond. But ultimately, I just want people to know posting and praying is not the solution to your company page engagement and follower growth problems. I've covered a lot of ground today, probably more than I was anticipating, but there's just so much to try and condense down 3 weeks into a 25-minute episode. But ultimately, what was my favorite Tam moment from the whole tour? Besides giving out 450 Tams across both events, I would have to say receiving the messages back of people that were sharing them with family. Some people left their Tam unattended at home and their partners stole them. Other people sent me amazing videos. Shout out to Helen Bainbridge. We have finally had her son confirm that yes, Tams are better than the UK's penguin biscuits. Now, for those of you who don't know what a Tam is, check out my content. They are a chocolate biscuit, as I would call them, cookie, as maybe the US would call them, but ultimately they're delicious. And every Friday I do a Tim Tam tip. So go and check that out. Ring the bell on my profile, which is in the top right-hand corner underneath the banner, so that you don't miss out on these tips. So creating the memorable moments with everybody over at Tim Tam was absolutely hands down my favorite moment out of the whole adventure. Thank you to everybody that came along. Thank you for everybody that supported me. Thank you to Lil for being the best wingman ever. And Tim Tam Security has now been added to her job title. She kept them all safe so that we were able to deliver them. But yeah, we had the best time. Thanks for everybody, for all of your hospitality, for all of those hugs. It was pretty amazing. And if I didn't get to meet you, hopefully I'll meet you at another presentation somewhere in the world. Until next episode, cheers.